So let me switch to English. Do you know whose sentence is that? I can't remember the real name of the guy, but his first name is Matt, and he's the advisor of Microsoft CEO. So Microsoft claims that everything beyond Python is AI, right? Python is machine learning. So let me reconfigure this statement, actually. Maybe we should go further. And if you say that it's a bit funny, or maybe it's right. I mean, it's not necessarily wrong statement. And why is that? Well, because it's not just about Power BI. Do you know what it is? But what's the software? It's ThoughtSpot. Have you heard about ThoughtSpot? You should. It's not an advertisement, but it's another self-service BI, which fall in this year. It fall in the leaders quadrant in Magic Quadrants of Gartner. So for the first time, it's no longer three companies: Microsoft, Tableau, and Qlik. ThoughtSpot is there, and it's 100% search and AI-based software. Just to give you a clue that today, AI in BI is not the future. It's here, right? So why this session? Well, actually, because you should get used to that BI will be and is right now somehow equipped in AI-supported features. And yeah, it's here. A little bit history. Well, humanity made big steps in history in terms of how we turn to be more technological, to speed our world, to work smarter, but also suffer on some bad habits like phones, smartphones. People get killed because they are working like this, or there's actually a joke that in UK every single year 100,000 smartphones fall into toilets because we just wear them everywhere. And actually, if you look at the history, it's not very popular to know that, for example, the self-driving car idea is quite old. 1994 is the first time when somebody thought that it would be good that the car would drive itself, right? And if you look back, the year of Second World War started, 1939. The first decoder of human voice was invented. So we know a lot, and in history we are quite far in our development and finding some really nice investments in our future. So how about bringing today's world? What do we have? We have a bunch of data. Today, you wake up with your smartphone in your hand and you see, oh my goodness, my friends are so active. I have to scroll my Facebook, I have to scroll my LinkedIn, I have to scroll my Instagram. What do you scroll also? We have this tapping habit every day. So yes, we are somehow in a world of data, and we miss a lot of this data every day. But we want to capture it, we want to analyze it, we want to grab insights. We want to find the most useful information every single day, every single time, as human beings. And we have lots of compute power. We have cloud, which makes us powerful because you don't have to put a PC under your desk, no longer. You just have to click twice, give your credit card number, and you're there. So we have also powerful algorithms which are actually based on quite old mathematical rules. They are from 70s, maybe even further in history. So that's why we should move to the AI world with no consideration because it's here. And the reason for using AI is because we have lots of duties every day. And it would be good for us to have some help from machine side, maybe. So 75%, this is the prediction for 2 years. 3 of 4 applications in the world will have some sign of AI in it. I don't know how it's today, probably not. But I'm pretty sure that in 2 years we'll see different world from the humanity and AI perspective. So we have innovations that bring us into the world that probably will change our situations as employees. Some of us will probably lose our jobs. Well, developers. Have you seen these new intelligence features, which is not about suggesting the next word you should write. It's about the code of the block code, right? So you are writing your code, and the software is suggesting, well, actually, some people wrote this before, and you should write this kind of class in your .NET code. Whoa! So Power BI. Well, actually, Power BI is quite young software from what you have now. But it landed. Actually, Microsoft put lots of effort. The Power BI product group is probably one of the biggest in terms of the number of employees. If you look at just the AI team in Power BI group, bunch of people which will pull all the efforts in bringing Power BI into AI era. So you have AI from the very bottom. When you try to collect your data, when you try to transform your data, you can be assisted by some kind of AI. You can enrich data in data flows, which you will see in a moment. You can then query your data as the end user using natural language. Well, Polish is not there, of course, as always. And then you can use some better or worse visualizations to show your data, but also those visuals are sometimes supported with AI. So AI is everywhere where you work with data as the end user, the analyst, and maybe data scientist. So you have 3 roles. So to name all the features as we have today in Power BI, from data scientist perspective, you can work with Python and R, 2 languages that historically they are somehow dedicated to machine learning and AI experiments. You can also create visuals using those languages. You can use AutoML. Marcin Szeliga is going to show you a bit more mature version, probably, of AutoML, but it's there also in Power BI. You can use visuals that will speed up your analytics, your data preparation. So you will have insights actually in seconds. And you can query your data with the natural language. From the business user perspective, if you're about to work with a BI tool, the expectation is to not write code, DAX. Sorry, guys. I know what you're thinking. But yes, people just don't want to use DAX. They would love to see the insights without any single line of code, which is probably not possible yet. But they are. That's the expectation of the end user. Even clicking is something that should be very limited. The number of clicks should be as small as possible. And the analysts, they are in the middle. And they are sometimes responsible for the whole process of data preparation, data enrichment, data presentation, and subscriptions of report, whatever. So they also want some assist from the AI perspective. Okay. So let me switch to demos. And the first demo I will show you is about the community. What should be better in this conference than having some community-based scenario. So I have a table in SQL database in Azure, which is called community member. Let me show you the table actually. So it's pretty much simple. Imagine that you have an association called Data Community Pod, and you're trying to organize an event, quite a big event, 1 million zlotys or PLNs of budget, and it's in Wrocław and it's called SQL Day. Actually, it's true. 800 people will arrive to Wrocław next year. Over 1,000 will probably move to Warsaw next year. So in 2021, we would expect over 1,000 attendees in Warsaw. So imagine that you know something about your community members. Something means that you have some demographic data. Is it against RODO? Probably not, because there is no single ID that will allow you to identify people. But I have something like how old the people are, what is their marital status, gender, how many children they have. That could be a significant impact. And we want to find out whether they are willing to attend our conference based on the history attendance. So we know the history, we know who attended 11 conferences, and now we want to find out who's going to attend SQL Day 2012 and 2021, and so forth, 2020, 2021. And then we want to find out what should we do about other people who are not willing to attend, how we can help them. Perhaps babysitter for everybody. I don't know, I'm just guessing, but I know something about this data. So there is about 4,000 rows in this data set, and the first thing I would like to know actually is, well, what influences the most this group, that they attend or not the conference. The group is quite symmetric in terms of gender, so we have almost 2,000 men and over 2,000 women. Sorry, I had to generate some data that will be very fair and diverse. And in terms of age, we have not many people over 50, sorry guys, and quite a lot of younger people, right? And now I will use the key influencers visual that is already there in Power BI, which can help you to identify what influences the most your attributes. So there is an attribute called attrition. If you notice the, not attrition, attendee, sorry. The attendee is just a flag, attendee or not, right? And then I can try whether the attendee attribute is dependent on any other attribute. So I will choose age, chapter, which means the city, children, education, has car, whether the guy has car or not, has house, I'm not sure, but it's probably about the public status, marital status, and yearly income. Member key is probably not needed. Not gender, I'm going to analyze attendee, and gender should be there as well. Okay, so I see some insights actually. I see that the first impression is that has car equals to 1 is the most impactful thing. So people may need car to travel to Wrocław. Well, actually, it's not that simple. Because we don't know what's the population impacted by this equation, has car equals 1. So to find out whether this population is big, I have to modify the properties of this visual and switch to format, analysis, enable counts. Now I can see that yes, actually has car is quite significant, because I'm not sure if you see, but it's the circle is now well, what do you call it? There is, yeah, it's rounded. It's rounded with. It's almost full. So it means 3 people in 4 may be impacted by this factor. So it's quite meaningful. Now, I'm also looking for some segments or populations that have some common values and common attributes. So let me see top segments. And for example, I can see that there is a segment. Well, yeah, that's very meaningful. If you have a car and if you have more than 4 kids, then probably you will not go to SQL Day because you will have to leave the car at home. So your wife or your husband or your partner could drive to schools and so forth, right? Maybe. Just guessing. That's the hypothesis. But that helps me a lot, actually. So how much time it would take to bring this insight if you were about to analyze the data yourself? Quite a lot, probably. And actually, you could go further. So I can, for example, I deleted something from here. Well, so let me just quickly add this visual from my demo here. Well, actually, it's not lost. Yeah. So let's see whether the key influencers changes when I switch from men's to women. So her scar equals 1. Well, it's the segment here. Well, actually, yes. So men, partial high school and no cars, they will not go to SQL Day, probably. And women, well, it's here 74%. Yeah, this is the common issue. Kids and car, nasty connection. So you see, actually, this is about getting insights pretty much quicker than it's possible without this visual. But I'm going to do something more. I'm going to show you what's underneath. So let me delete actually this visual, and let's do this exercise again. I will run DAX Studio. Sorry, it's not DAX Studio. This is DAX Studio, and I will connect to this Power BI model. And I will grab all the queries that will run underneath when I'm clicking in the report. And now, let me add again this visual. Let me add attendee as the attribute to analyze, and some additional attributes just to make sure that we see the effect. And what's captured by the DAX Studio? Well, actually, it's something like, sorry. It's not that. This is a bit further. Well, actually, it should be right click filter. Well, something like that. Okay. So now you can see. Notice that you have here some mystic AI object with some methods to call, which actually do things like create models, train it, and use it against your data. So finally, the final call here is to evaluate 3 things, and one of them is to display key drivers. So here, AI key drivers returns a table that just relates columns, their values, and their impact on the predicted attribute. And you can actually see the results of it if I run this query. The third result. The second result will show me some of the key drivers and influence, right? So the question is whether I can use those methods in my DAX code in Power BI. What do you think? Can I? Well, actually you can. If you want to present people with some table showing those key drivers and their scoring, you can create a table in Power BI model. It's hidden here, but it's there. Let me just show you that. Yeah, that's the code. It's a bit different comparing to what you saw in DAX Studio, of course, because you have to switch from define to the definition of measure, and instead of evaluate, you have to switch to the return keyword at the very end of this code. So I'm returning a table which uses this AI key drivers method, and it presents me with all the features. The only thing you have to do is to make a column value attribute or column a string, because then there are values returned with different data types. So it's actually variant, right? So this is the only thing. But finally, I landed in a situation when I have just a table with just a table. Yeah, I will unhide it so you can see. Yeah. Sorry about that. DAX, please. Oh, yeah, here. So now you can see the table actually. So there is a description of feature column and the value that is meaningful and the score and the impact. So you can actually present it in your way, not using the key influencers visual. That's number one. Okay. Now, I can also go further and do some Q&A. Here you can see some visuals that were created with Q&A. So let me create it from the scratch. Q&A means that I will just query the data using natural language, Spanish or English. So there you have ask your question. And I can write, for example, show average yearly income. And there is it. And I can check whether it's diverse. So who earns more? Well, sorry guys. That's the not very realistic scenario, but yeah. I wish it's your scenario, girls, as you earn more than the guys. And then we can see how it spreads among different age groups. So I can add another question and query it like, well, show average yearly income by age group. And I want to switch it to a column chart, maybe, yeah. And if you expect that the trend is that the older you get, the more you should earn, well, it's actually true, excluding the fact that when you're over 50, you may expect some drop in your wage. Yeah. So if you're getting to 40, be prepared. You're reaching your maximum, probably, right? But actually, trend is you can display trends, and it's also a popular way to deal with data and show the insights quickly. So Q&A is there. I'm not going to show you what's underneath. How much time I have? 20 minutes or something. Okay. So yeah. So Q&A. Also, what we have in Power BI desktop as well as in the service is the analyze feature. So, for example, I have age groups displayed here. How many members are in each group, and I can use right-click, analyze, find the distribution where the distribution is different, and I can show you that, for example, from the this is not good. From the education perspective, the distribution of age groups is different than in total. So you can easily find something that do not correspond to the overall distribution of the age, right? You can also check whether, for example, marital status has something to do. Well, actually, it has to do a lot. Who attended yesterday the Databricks session? We can check whether here it's the same. So actually, let me quickly do the simple analytics. Let's have the marital stats, and let's have the age group, and or maybe even no. Let's switch to age, and let's have the average. Yeah, single are younger, married are older. Quite, maybe true. Okay, so Q&A, key influencers, and quick insights, which is the name of this analyze, find the distribution is different, and also you can analyze the find the reason for increase or decrease is there in Power BI Desktop and in the service. Now, there are also some different scenarios where you could use AI-powered things in Power BI. And the first one I'm going to show you is data flows connected to the cognitive service feature. So data flow actually is something that runs in Power BI service. It's very similar to what you have in Power BI Desktop, which is called Power Query. So you can organize your data. You can bring data from your data source. You can transform this data and then present to users. So here I'm going to connect to SQL database in Azure. You just connect to the server, put the database name. Sorry, it's a movie. I'm not going to relate on the internet today. So I just recorded it during the first session today. So yeah, I was already connected to this data source. That's why my username is encrypted and not presented to you in the open text. And then I can choose a table that resides in this database. The table is named photo. It has very simple structure, just 3 columns. The ID of photo, the path that leads to the actual photo itself, and the language which will be used against photo to bring some description from the photo. So every single photo is actually will be described in English in a moment. And I will use a feature which is called here AI Insights. Well, sorry, Microsoft namings. So you can see the button at the top, AI Insights. I can use it to enrich the data. So I have a table and I will enrich it with additional columns or column that will contain tags describing my photos. So it's simple tagging. And you can see if I click AI Insights, 4 methods of cognitive services are showing up. Tag images, extract key phrases, detect language, and score sentiment. We have it right now. Also, you can have additional algorithms or, let's say, functions that can be used against your data, but you will have to import it from your prepared model. You can prepare a model and import it to Power BI. Actually, it's not here, but you would see it just above the cognitive services. So everything I have to do is to present the function with the path to the photograph and the code of language. So it's there in my data. There are some advanced options, and then after a few seconds or maybe a bit longer, I will have additional column, which actually will not be a single column. It will be a record of 2 columns. One will be tags divided by comma, and another one will be JSON description of the result returned from the cognitive services, because sometimes you will not just grab the tags, but also the confidence, the numbers that will describe how sure the algorithm was that the tag fits to the photo. And I will show you those photos in a moment. Those photos were taken in Krakow at SQL Saturday this year. if anybody recognizes any faces, sorry. I'm probably not allowed to use it, but let me just show you some people. So there we go. There we have very basic tags. I'm not saying this is a very sophisticated algorithm, but it returns something describing the photos. And everything I had to do after this landed is to save this data set, this data flow, and use it in my report. So I will use it in Power BI Desktop. And how I did that? I created a query that connected to the data flow. So everything you have to do is to create a new source, connect to Power BI data flow, sorry, Power Platform, Power BI data flows. I connected to my data flow and I did some transformations. So what I had is this. That was where I ended with my work with data flow. That was the data that data flow presents to me as a data set. So all I have to do is to split this column into chunks, into separate tags. So what I do is I'm splitting by column delimiter, which is pretty much simple, and then I unpivot those columns and just have the tag in place. So my data set right now is like this. It's the identifier which can be repeated because every single photo can have different tags. It's still the path to the photo, and this is a single tag. So I can create a denormalized data set and end up with a report like this. So there I have my photos, and there are some funny insights in there. There is a guy, Wojtek Sawicki in Warsaw. He's a speaker and a very old member of Data Community Poland. And actually, he's not going to be happy about cognitive services because there's this talk. Sorry, I had to show you that. And also, Damian Widera is not here, but I'm pretty sure that he will see this recording, or Martin will say everything about this session. So if you say the boy, this is Damian's daughter presenting the session during SQL Saturday. And also, ladies, sorry about that, but if I refer to woman, there are a bunch of photos, but not every woman is a lady. Yeah, so you see, there are some insights actually. That was for fun. Yeah. Definitely, cognitive services are better in some other places. So just to make sure that you understand, there are some scenarios, really serious scenarios, where Power BI and cognitive services can be used against data. It's perhaps not this scenario. So in EliteMind, we're using it for scenarios to recognize handwritten text. I was showing this yesterday at Databricks session. So we have, for example, two different forms, and they should contain some text that is compatible and let's say consistent. And you can use cognitive services or eventually your own trained model to recognize the handwritten text and compare things in different forms. So it's pretty serious. I think it can be funny, but yeah, you can do a lot with that actually. So if you're wondering what's the visual for showing the photos, because it may be quite tricky, it's an image grid, and the settings for showing this in a nice fashion was to switch to grid render type actually. So not very sophisticated. This is the CloudWord, which is pretty much popular. So it's not very sophisticated report, but shows what should be shown. Now. The other story is about bringing some more serious machine learning stuff to Power BI. So when I have the data flow in Power BI Premium, very important thing, and I have the same attendee to predict, I can use features like apply data model, machine learning model to a data flow, and I can create one of four algorithms. I can use one of four algorithms to predict something. So here, Power BI is choosing for me to predict the attendee, the binary prediction algorithm. Pretty obvious, right? And I can label my predicted values like not attending and attending. So I would know with data enrichment produced by the model which new members are probably going to show up at SQL Day next year, probably. Yeah. So there it is. I click next, and what is done actually? It's the algorithm underneath assess whether all the variables are needed, required, and has impact on my prediction. So there you can see two of those attributes are not going to mean anything for my prediction. I'm going to save this model and run it, right? So the effect of that is there is a model stored within. It's not just Power BI, it's Azure underneath, of course. But in Power BI, you can see in Power BI Premium Workspace, in data flows, I can see my models. I can produce a data set that is enriched with predictions, and it works pretty much real time as soon as you're going to refresh your data set. So as the data set will be refreshed, the additional column with a prediction will be added there. But also, if you're the analyst or let's say data scientist and you're worried about how good is your model, Power BI also presents you with the report that shows some very basic things about your model. So it's about the accuracy, about the key influencers are also there if you click on the on this button on the right. But also you can simulate what is the threshold for your population if you want to use this model against new data. So quite, I would say quite similar to what you had in data mining in SQL Server years ago, but it's there called AI. Right? And yeah, that's this benefit or profit chart. So you can actually see that if I put, let's say, 4,000. I have 4,000 members, and if everybody attends SQL Day, let's assume that 300 zlotys is something that is my cost, and 400 is the price of the conference. Let's assume that, and it will bring me a chart that will show where I can maximize my profit. So you can see the maximum is somewhere there, here. I can track it, and I can just know what the threshold is, right? The threshold here is somewhere about 25%. So this can be used against my model. Of course, this will change over time, so it's not a one-time analysis. The accuracy report is here. I'm not going to show you that, but you have some details about the model. You can use the model against data set that you have in here. Yeah, I'm good. So let me summarize this. I just showed you 4, maybe 5 features in Power BI related to AI and machine learning. Those were, to name it, key influencer, visual, Q&A, quick insights, cognitive services integration, and some AutoML. But also you can still use R and Python. But remember, business users, they don't want to use code, right? They are not interested in importing libraries, installing frameworks. No. So everything that is simple will definitely be much more appreciated by the users, and that's number one. And if you're saying that AI in Power BI and AI in self-service BI is something bad because it's black box, because you don't know what's going underneath, because you don't want to put the data in a tool that does something and brings you the insight that may influence your business decisions, ask yourself a question. Do you know exactly what SQL Server is doing when you write your SQL queries? It's closed, it's encapsulated software. And do you really want to know what Google is doing when you're asking your questions? It's all about that it solves your problem. You know this problem? If you visit SQL Day, that may be your problem one day. Do you really want to know what this black box did for you? I'm not sure. Okay, with that, thank you. Those are links that will show up when you try to run those experiments in Power BI Pro. They will ask you, please install Power BI Premium and then visit documentation. I encourage you to visit 8Mind Academy, our company's YouTube channel. This will probably migrate to a website one day, very soon. And if you want to contact me for any discussions about AI and Power BI, I'm here at the conference till the very end and also available under my email. Thank you.